Alright, so we got the 380 spoilers, and we're coming off of a 2-week break here, with this chapter not really addressing what happened in the previous, I guess, like with all of the Izuku versus Shigaraki stuff. But then again, there is a lot going on at the moment, and a lot of the other stuff is being addressed in this chapter, because it begins with Gentle saying that his quirk is already at its limit, and that the flying trampoline is about to be undone. Labrava asks him to hang on just a little longer, because she's almost done with the new program. So I think it was like 2 chapters back when we saw Kurogiri warping himself to UA, and he wound up knocking over Aizawa and Monoma, who were erasing Shigaraki / All for One's quirks. And once he was able to use his quirks, he caused like this massive explosion inside of UA, which caused it to start falling. And I guess there wasn't really anyone available to help with that immediate situation until out of nowhere Gentle showed up. And it turns out that he had his full redemption and he was allowed to help out in the war, but he was also being super boosted by Labrava's love quirk. So he's like Super Saiyan at this moment, and he used his quirk to make like an air trampoline to hold UA up, seemingly saving the day. Hey, also guys, if you like my Hero content, please subscribe if you haven't already. It's fine if you don't want to, but if you just needed a reminder, here you go. Thanks. Now we're coming back to that sequence because we see that he's saying to Labrava that, he's at his limit. But Gentle then begins to reflect that there is no one documenting this battle, but that he still needs to give it his all to do the right thing. But then he sees the students from the business course filming him and gets startled. Gentle says that it's dangerous for them to stay so close to the edge and tells them to go back inside UA. But the student with the giant hair is too busy narrating about the incredible story of a villain in custody who has decided to help the heroes. Gentle then shouts to get his attention, and the boy shouts back, saying that society losing faith in the heroes was partially their fault for failing to build a better public image for them, and that's why now they need to record this battle in the best way possible. Labrava's voice then starts coming out of the student's cell phone, saying that what he said was amazing. She says that she was able to hack into his phone because the barrier was weakened, and tells him to keep filming because everyone needs to see how cool Gentle is. We then see that Labrava has started live streams on various websites using the footage that is being recorded. She has also completed the new security system and got UA floating again, for which Gentle praises her. However, even though things seem to be getting better, one of Twice's clones says, "Eliminate the heroes." That's when we see that they have pushed Aizawa out of UA, and Mike jumps up to try to catch him, but the two of them fall into a portal while Kurogiri keeps glitching. Okay, so that's really interesting, and I've talked about this many times before, but now it's more concrete than ever. This is for sure setting up their final battle in this series, which, like I said before, is going to be present Mike and Aizawa trying to defeat Kurogiri with Talk no Jutsu and bring him back to Shirakumo. Kaminari says that it looks like Kurogiri saved them from the fall, but Mandalay says that it also means they lost erasure. All they can do now is believe in their victory and keep fighting. We then see that the support course is filming Deku and Shigaraki's fight. Cut back to Gunga, and All for One says that he was actually supposed to take full control of Shigaraki's body from the beginning. That this whole fusion and new personality thing only happened because Tomura's destructive impulses were stronger than he expected. But this is no reason to panic, because he only needs to make Tomura's body absorb the quirk factor of his original body for All for One's domain to become absolute. He then tries to fly away again so he can get to UA to fulfill his duty, but HAWKS gets in his way. Alright, so that's it. That explains why he needs to be there in person, which I guess we assumed it had to be something like this. And All for One, of course, revealing that he was supposed to initially just fully take over Shigaraki. There wasn't supposed to be this whole thing where he battles for consciousness, because it was revealed in the previous chapter that Shigaraki knew that All for One was going to try to take him over. So as he said, he hid his core deep down inside of his soul, and bit by bit, without All for One noticing, he started reclaiming himself from the inside out. And that's why we see that fragment of Tenko being locked away in their subconscious. So in order for All for One to stop this and fully take him over, he needs to have Shigaraki's body like absorb the current body that All for One has, that's like rewinding away at the moment, because it has the original All for One quirk factor in it, which is interesting because I thought that they said that Shigaraki had the original All for One, but maybe there's a process that separates the quirk itself from the quirk factor. To be honest, we don't really know too much about the science behind all of this stuff, like with how Yujiko performs his experiments. HAWKS says he won't let him go away because this is their story. He'll stop All for One for the sake of the new generation. He makes a feint, pretending to attack with his sword and then boost it with his feathers, but it's useless. All For One laughs and uses an attack that destroys Hawks' body. Tokoyami screams in despair until we see that Hawks is with huge glowing glamorous eyes surrounded by roses. He says, "Ouch. I wanted to see you so bad that I fly too fast," and fades into a mist. That was a close call for real. He's like so hot that it was super hard to replicate all his swag. Cammy joins the battle. We see that Shishikura blocked All For One's attack using his meat thingies. He says that they had been tasked to protect the villains, but their mission was changed suddenly. This is way more serious than they were expecting, but that doesn't matter. Shiketsu is here. The final double spread shows Inasa using his quirk to make all the Twice clones fly and gathering them all in one place. He says that All For One thought the winds of fortune were blowing in his favor, but it is he who controls the winds. End of chapter. Wow, so this is really exciting. And this is continuing the trend that the last couple chapters have had, where it's like, oh, we're having a huge problem here. Don't worry, I'm a character we've seen previously in the series, and I'm gonna randomly show up in the nick of time and solve this problem that you guys have. But Shiketsu showing up is also something that we talked about before, because it was kind of insinuated that it was gonna happen. When the layout of like the Troy system and the underground tunnels and all that stuff was laid out, it was specifically mentioned that it's connected to Shiketsu. And I was like, okay, so that means that they're probably gonna come and help, and also it makes sense because they never really had their full arcs, you know what I mean? But now they're getting it, and Cammy using her illusion ability on All For One, and it makes you think like if this works on All For One, then Cammy could have been integral into like the plan for taking him down. Like you can essentially make him see whatever you want to for a couple seconds. Shishikura's also here. I think he's actually the first guy who mentioned the quirk singularity in the series, interestingly enough, and he's like blocking All For One's attacks with his meat quirk thing that we saw him use against Bakugo and Kirishima. His quirk is called Meatball, and it doesn't really make sense, but I always thought it was really interesting because of what it can do by like turning you into like this meat potato thing. And I think all it has to do is like really touch you for it to activate. So in theory, he could do this to like All For One, I guess. I doubt we're gonna see him turn All For One into like a meat potato, but in theory, I guess he could. And then of course Inasa's here. He has one of the best quirks in the series with Whirlwind, which is basically just wind or air manipulation. Like it's too bad that we didn't get to see more of this guy in the series, because he could have been a really awesome rival to the big three of 1A. Like a rival that they could all have in common rather than themselves. But I digress. I'm glad that he's at least showing up here. I think he has so much potential, and I just hope that at least some of it gets to play out here. But that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you thought about this chapter in the comments, and if you liked the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.